Welcome to the Bettendorf Public Library's Take-Home Workshop. Today, we're making these pamphlet stitched sketchbooks. So you'll be able to practice your creativity anywhere you go. There is so much to love about this craft. We're making this sketchbook today with blank pages appropriate for drawing, but you can make any kind of notebook. So here's one I did that I had leftover paper from when my children were young and learning how to do, learning handwriting. Here's one that I did with just scratch paper left over from my printer. And so every other page has some sort of writing on it, but I will still get a lot of use out of that. And then here's one that I did with plain paper pages, but I made the cover out of a discarded frozen meal box. So it's a little bit heavier. It's got a little wax coating on it. It's just going to be more durable. So for a small notebook just to toss in your purse maybe, where it's going to get a lot of wear and tear, that makes a pretty nifty looking little notebook for that. That's going to stand up really well. Of course, if you use cardboard or chipboard or something like that, or an old cereal box, you can also cover it with a decorative paper, or you can paint it to make it more attractive if you don't like the design that's on there. In your take-home workshop kit, you will get 10 sheets of a 9x12 drawing paper. You will get one 12x12 piece of cardstock. You will get a length of waxed linen thread. In this little straw, just snip off the end, and you will find your upholstery needle. Upholstery needles are a bit longer. They have a slightly bigger eye, and they're not very sharp, but be careful. While it's not very sharp, with enough force, it will still puncture you and draw blood. I can tell you that from experience. Then you will also get a thimble, because we are going to be pushing that needle through 11 layers of paper, and we need to push with some force. What we need you to supply is a pair of scissors and a pencil and a straight edge. The first step in making our sketchbooks will be trimming the papers to the sizes that we need. You always want your cover to be slightly larger than your inside pages. That overhang will give some protection to those edges. We have drawing paper that is 12-inch wide, and then our cover stock is 12-inch wide. So the first thing we need to do is trim a little bit off of these inside pages. So I'm going to trim about 1 inch. And just measure and measure. And then cut. Since we have 10 pages here, if I try and pick up all 10 and cut them with my scissors, they will slide and that cut will go crooked. So I'm going to do it in 3 cuts and do 3 or 4 pages at a time. There you have your pages, your inside pages, cut down to 9 by 11 inches. So they're the proper width for our booklet. They're a little bit wider than our cover stock. Now we need to cut our cover stock down to the point where it extends just a little bit beyond that. So I'm going to take about 2.5 inches off of here. So I'm going to mark it at 9.5. And trim that. So now we have our cover cardstock at 12 inches by 9.5, and our center pages are 11 inches by 9 inches. So you'll see on the sides you'll have about 1/2 inch of overlap, top and bottom about 1/4 inch. So that'll be a nice overlap that will help protect those inside pages. The next thing we want to do is fold everything in half. And again, I'm going to do this a few pages at a time because that's how you get a more precise and more crisp fold. So I'm going to start with that cover. Then I'm going to do again 3 or 4 pages at a time. And then we can go ahead and take all of these sections of paper and stack them together. And they're going to go inside our cover, just like that. Our next step is to poke the holes that we need for our binding thread to go through. So this is where our thimble comes in. This is a fairly thick stack of pages, but if we use a thimble to force the needle, we can get it through all of them. If you're ever doing a booklet where you can't poke all the way through, then I recommend measuring this step. We're going to eyeball it today, but what you would do is you want one hole right in the middle of the page. So you would measure right to the middle of the page. Then you want another hole that is halfway between that hole and the top, and then one that's halfway between the center hole and the bottom. So you can measure those out on your pages, and then you can poke the holes in a few pages at a time, and your holes will be in the same place. But we're just going to eyeball it. I'm all about the eyeballing. Thimble on my thumb, which is kind of unusual. And I'm going to position the tip of the needle at about the halfway point. Again, it doesn't have to be precise. Then I'm going to bend these down and kind of pinch that tip into the fold to hold it steady so it doesn't slide. And I'm going to push as hard as I can, and the needle will come on through. Now I'm going to work that needle around a little bit because I want that hole big enough that we'll be able to bring the eye of the needle as well as some thread through later on. So bring that through and then poke it through and give it a little wiggle again. So that's our first hole. Now I'm going to do it again about halfway between that center hole and the top of the book. So about there. And again, fold it over, pinch that down a little bit so that your needle doesn't slide off to one side. Push. Work those holes a little bit. Make sure they're there. And then one last hole. Same way, halfway between the center hole and the bottom of the book. Position that needle, pinch it down a little bit just to hold it in place and push your needle through. So now we have 3 holes, middle, top, and bottom, that go all the way through the book. Once we have our 3 holes, we can start stitching. So we gave you 18 inches of the waxed linen thread. So let's talk about this thread for a second. It's a thicker thread. We gave this to you. It's a very strong thread, and the waxing does a few different things for it. One, it makes it super easy to thread a needle because you don't have to worry about a lot of threads going off in different directions. It helps hold your final knot tighter. The wax kind of sticks to itself. And it also, as time goes on, will protect the thread from wear and tear, keep it from fraying. So it's a good thread to use, but you don't have to use this. You can use string, you can use yarn, you can use twine, you can use anything that you would have around the house. You could use a sewing thread that's not going to be super strong, but you could also then thread it multiple times, so that might be an option. But if you have something like this or a slightly thicker cording of some type that will tie into a tight knot at the end, that is ideal. So we're going to start on the outside of the book at the center hole, and we're going to poke that in there. Now, if you've moved your book around like I just did, some of your holes may have come out of alignment. And so what we're going to do is we're going to just basically thread them on a little bit at a time. So poke it through and pull it. You always want to make sure that you have your end sticking out. You don't want to pull the end of your thread through. And there we go. We got a whole bunch at one shot. So we're going to pull that through while holding on to the end, because we don't want the end to come through. Then we're going to line our pages up, and we're going to go back down through one of the other holes. At this stage of the game, it doesn't matter which one. So I'm just going to pick the one that's closest to me. I'm going to work that needle through the pages and then through the cover. Flip the book over, pull that through. Again, I want to keep an eye on my tail because I don't want to pull the tail all the way through. I need some left over here. And then from this hole, we're going to go all the way up to this top hole, the one that is still empty, and go back down through there. And again, we might have to work it through, oh, there we go, in stages. Pull that through, taking care to make sure that your tail on the outside doesn't come through. You can try it, you can even just hold on to it. Then we're going to go back down through the middle. So this time do all the pages in one, and then I'm going to go through that central hole in the cover and bring it back out. So now both your ends are coming out through that center hole, and you want to pull those tight as you can without pulling it so tight that it tears your holes. Then with one tail, separate, one tail on this side of the long stitch and one tail on this side of the long stitch, we're going to tie a knot so that your knots around this long stitch. Just a square knot is fine. And then you can trim your threads. You don't have to. You can leave them long. You can decorate them. You can put beads or something on them, but you can just trim those. And there you have your sketchbook. Now, you've been manipulating that fold a lot, so it may have loosened up. You might want to squidge that down tight again. But this is a lovely little blank page sketchbook or journal, whatever fits your needs that you've had. And while this was all new materials, as we said, you can make a notebook out of completely recycled materials. Paper that you still have around, cardboard or cardstock that you have around from old projects or that you're repurposing from another use. And you can make yourself the notebooks that you need to keep yourself organized. We want to see your projects, please. So now that you know how to do one, you can make more, and then you can share your creations with us on Facebook and Instagram or Twitter. So thank you for joining us today, and enjoy your sketchbook.